Welcome to Trading Lounge and the Asian Report for the 13th of November. I'm starting with the tick chart here for the ASX200 here because last time we spoke I was counting this up as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I was a bit dubious about 4 because it was overlapping wave 1 and then looking for 5 waves up. So we had from wave 4 here to wave 5 here, we've had that 5-wave structure here. So and yet we have a new high here. So obviously I've made an error somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it is. I'll have a look at that in a moment with you. But what I want to say about this point here is that from this low, if this market's going to go, we know that the 6.8 is resistance, and when it becomes support, then we'll have a bullish run in play at that point. But until that point, this is where it can fail from this number here, roughly below it, above it, so on. This little trend up here also counts as a reasonable 5 waves of 1 and 2, and then a 3 and a 4 and a 5 here. So we may get an A wave here, a B wave here, and a C wave coming down into this box here. The lower end of that is 61.8%. So if it comes down further, then all of this structure here to this high here, then this level here is the support. And the reason I'm pointing this out for too is because if this breaks down at this particular point here, moves through that, then we've definitely got a bigger bearish picture happening at that point. So another way we could look at it as well is this level here, the 6,750, the midpoint. While that remains support, then because it may move down through the 61.8% to the closest largest number, the 6,750 here. So really, as long as this stays support here, as long as the market stays above this, then the market is bullish. If the market finds this number here as resistance, then we need to be thinking, you need to be thinking about being on the bearish side of things. Okay, of course this level, this group 1 here will be supportive, and it will take a while to churn through that if that's going to be the case. But otherwise, if this comes down here as an A and a B and a C wave through here, that means that you can go long above this little high here, and that will take you up into this number here, which offers more resistance. Just to sort of establish this count a little bit, I've looked at it like this here on the hourly chart here. So from this low here, the 6650, which is really important. It's the halfway between two minor levels, a minor level 800 here, and the medium level 6,500, this one here. So it always plays a strong part. So from this low here, I was looking at it as wave 1 and ABC for wave 2, and remember that couldn't really get a nice 5-wave structure out of here, and that's why I've got this here as a wave 4 here. I've got wave 4 here, but it's also possible to have wave 4 here, which would give a triangle for this wave 4. So from here, an A and a B and a C and a D and an E wave here. But I'm not that keen on that because this move down through here seems to count as 5 waves, and this one here seems to count as 5 waves. I can get I can get an A and a B and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 up here for a B wave up here. So I'll stay with that, but just point out there's something sort of not quite right in there. And this is not really counting very nicely as an impulse wave, but the best I can do is 1 and 2 here, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 to the third wave. Fourth wave comes back quite deeply here, and then we've got this move here. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 as I counted up yesterday on the tick chart there. But because I've widened this out a little bit, so we can use this as wave 4 here. And we may even have a top in play here. So this is what I was concerned about with wave 5 sitting here. It's a little bit small, so I'd imagine that we would go up further. So we're probably looking at this as wave 1 here, and wave 2 coming back to that 61.8% mark there. And like I mentioned, that 6,750 here is quite critical for all of this. So I guess, as I mentioned, we could take that top out there, but support on top of 72 there, the 6,772, would also play a part as support for moving higher there as well. So I think we'll go with this count here for the time being, and we'll look for 3, 4, and 5. But I just need to explain to you that I'm not that confident about all of this. I'm just taking the next logical steps in terms of what could be at this stage and at what point. And I've got wave C up here as well. And that's fine. We'll watch that top out as wave C, but we will turn bullish if this here gets a nice support. And I don't mean in this little run here. I mean once this run is finished, then let's just measure for a moment. We get 1 and 2. Let's just say this pans out here, 3, 4, and 5 here. Then after that, if we get this sort of pattern here, then we'll look for support at this point, and then we'll change our count to bullish. So going from that 1 hour chart to a 4 hour chart here, this is the count we've got from here. Is wave B here, 1 and 2 and 3, and A and a B and a C for 4, and I'm not even sure about that either. And then the 5 waves up, taking us higher up in here, as long as that stays steady. And then if we get some sort of corrective move here, then we'll look to be going long on that number here as support here. So a fair way to go just yet. And on the daily chart, it can look a little bit like this here. So on this wave C that I was talking about, that's an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave for a larger B wave here. Or we can look at this as wave 3 here, wave 4 here, but I've always looked at this as a 5-wave structure here. So until that top is taken out, or I've got a structure that will tell me that it's going higher, I have to be mindful that that is still an impulse wave, which can make all of this just corrective and fail from here. And I'm not going to get sucked in and move lower from that point as an A and a B and a C wave down here. So on the bullish side, we need to look at this as wave 1 here, and this makes a nice ABC here for wave B or wave 2. So 1 and 2 here, and then we'd have to look at this in more of a bullish light coming up through here, but we need that support on that point there. So at the moment we're in a bit of a rock and a hard place because we've got the double tops or triple tops here and so on, and this level here. So it's just going to be, be driven pretty much by what the US market's going to do. So it's kind of all eyes on that to a point, and yet this has its own identity to a point as well. So yeah, we're looking for tops in the US markets as such, so we just need to see how that goes. I mean, just as a little instance, I'm just looking at the Nasdaq in the corner of my eye here. So with the Nasdaq, we've got wave 3 here, wave 4 here, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 here, and 1 and 2 here, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 for the third, little ABC for the fourth, and we could have little 5. We could have a top in there now for that as well here. This is group 1 here. The 300, wherever we see 3 is the top of group 1. So if it's going to fail, this is where it's going to fail from, and this would be, when we look at a classic trading levels pattern, we see the arrival, the reaction, the first high above the level, and then an A and a B and a C. Well, this here would be the first high above the level of this 8,000 here, by the way. So but we'll see. I mean, we're in a bullish trend. I don't want to stick my head in the sand, but we do need evidence and proof that we'll be moving higher or lower. So in this case here, I'd need to see this same type of pattern again on here to go long over here. So it's a time just to chill out here. If this is 5 waves down here, then we'll get a 3 up and another 5 back down through to here. But you can imagine this is obviously the support here. And when we're using group 1 here, 1, 2, and 3, if a market's been trending up, and eventually if this number 2 here becomes the retested resistance. Normally we get a spike down to 1.5 here, but not always. I mean, kind of 20% of the time or 30% of the time. But if that turns resistance here, then we know that we're going to be pulled down to that point there. Anyway, I just thought I'd pull that across there to look at that. Also, we'll move on to India, which is also beating its head against a double top up here as well for all of this. And once again, well, like I've always said, we'll move up, we'll have a reaction here, of course, the old highs, and this is the closest, largest number. And simply, if this reacts from here and then find its way gives us that classic trading levels pattern up here, then we can also look to go along at that point. Now the move up here, yes, it can be counted bullish as wave 1 here and wave 2 here, and then up for wave 1 and pulling back for wave 2 here as well. I mean, that's possible. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 here. But it also could be counted as an A and a B and a C wave up here. Double tops are rarely the end of the bull campaign, but still, we could face a wave C coming down here as a wave A here, wave B here, and wave C, and then go up. So, we need to be mindful of that. It's kind of a double top, but it's not matured by any means, So there's a lot to consider here. So, if this was wave 1 coming up here of a smaller degree, then we'll be coming back into this space here, back into this level. So we just need to be mindful of that. We'll just go in and have a little look at this anyway. I mean, it counts quite nicely, I have to say, as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then 5 here, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So it does count quite nicely as an impulse wave that is completed at this point, and that's why we have shorted it in here. But I'll just work in from the 4-hour chart. So yeah, so 1 and 2 here and 3 here and 4 here and 5 here. We can look at, I'll probably have to go to the next highest level. So I'll just borrow this here, copy this. So we know the 61.8% is there. We'll see how it travels. I mean, a wave 2 is normally quite swift and sharp, isn't it? So we'll see how that goes. So it's only just arrived here and it's reacted from that. It does appear that we've got 5 waves down here, so that means that we can short it again through this low here. But this does look impulsive here as well to the upside. So we do have a little short trade on. We went short just here, but we've taken part profit here. This is a 61.8%. We're expecting it to move back up to. So I'll put a stop above that. You can bring the stop down to this particular point here. This move here does appear to be 5 waves up here. So I'm thinking that we've got an impulse up here, maybe wave 1 or wave A, and then back here for wave 2 or wave B, and then back up into this place where it can fail from here, or it can just continue to go up here. So I guess what we could do is, in terms of our trade, so we've taken part profit here, we've had our stop here, we can move our stop down to this particular point here for this. And the thing is, I guess, I'll just remove that now. The thing here is that if we get this upswing here, right? Let's just say this low comes in and we get this upswing here. That means that we would go low down the bottom here. But that means, I'll just copy that. But that means, and I'll just put that there, that means that we can go short below this one here. So even though we may get out of the trade here or even lower than that, we'll talk about that in a moment, this low here will become a catalyst for, and we'll only know it's there once the market starts to move up, of course. But once it's in place here, then that will become a catalyst for the move down. But otherwise, I mean, this here on the tick chart moves as corrective, as I mentioned yesterday as well. So just going into the tick chart here, it's a little bit odd. That's the top here, right? So how do we count this down here? Well, sorry, just tuning in. We can count it as 1 and 2 here, and then 3 and 4 here. But do we get 5 waves in this particular structure here? And I don't think that we do at this stage. Just double checking. I mean, this is wave 4 here. It's probably taken as wave 3 low here, and wave 4 over here as an A wave, a B wave, and a C wave over here, and then down for 5 here. So yeah, I mean, it looks like a wave 4 here, doesn't it? but it probably counts better as wave A, wave B here, and then 1 and 2 and 3, an A and a B and a C for 4 and down for 5. So it can count as corrective, and this one here counts 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 up for 1. I probably have to go to 1 degree smaller than all of this. This down through here, I can't really count it properly. I can see that this is 5 waves. I can see we've got a correction here. I can see this is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 here. So maybe it's the A wave here and a B wave here. And then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 here for wave 1 and 2 here. 1 and 2. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more downside here. So, and just the angle of it, do you know what I mean? It's like it's sort of, it doesn't want to go down. Like these are all, I mean, it's a nice strong third wave here. So we'll probably push up from here. So I think we've got our stop here. You could probably get out at this point here, but we're in a downtrend, so you wouldn't really want to get out. But this here should become the resistance. So we could just go above here. So that's at 13. I mean, that's where it's going to retest to if it moves up anyway. So I think we could take 50% here and then leave it above the 20 here, like 24. So going back to the hourly chart here. So we could take, if I just borrow this here, taking 50% off here and then bringing this stop down here to 24. So 22, 23, 24. Bringing it down to that point. So let's do that. We'll just leave it at that. I mean, this was all just sort of, we just wanted to use half position sizes with all of this anyway in all of this particular space. The question is now you know, do we go long here now? So I think that we could first of all go long where this particular point is here. We could also go long if we wanted to go because of this here, if you wanted to get in sharply here. Once the 11.9 becomes the support, you could take a small position in that point there, and when this is breached here, then get a second position in this space here. Just with the proviso though, we know that this move up here is 5 waves, and I don't know if this is corrective just yet, but we may just get a move up to this point here and then move out of this point. So what we could also do here in these long trades that we have is we could take 50% here at the 11,950 and then wait for that to become support. And once that becomes support, take the high out here of the first high above the level. Look, this is all just mucking around in here. We're not getting into a trend. We're just talking about taking logical steps in this. And that's if we move, you know, if we move up from this point here. And if we do move up, then the count would be wave 1 here. Would be 1 here, 2 here, 3, 4. Third wave normally comes around the old tops of a market, you know, and then wave 5 making a new high here if that's going to be the case. So this will be our target here, 12,100 at this particular point. So I'll just put that there. So we'll see how we go at that point, and this would be part of the classic trading levels pattern occurring at the 12,000 that I've talked about. So it would be the arrival, the reaction, which we're going through now, then the first high above the level, and then which would be this wave 5 here, then an A and a B and a C, and then pushing up again, and then we'll be taking it, we'll put in real positions at this particular point in time over here. So we've got a fair way to go with all of this, but we'll just watch it unfold, you know. But yeah, let's see. And of course, if this low here gets taken out, you want to be short at that point. Okay. Alrighty. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers.